But we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment.
I think this is a negative part of what we are experiencing.
We want peace and security and stability.
There'll be no shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely important for us.
My hope and prayer is that the Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
Hello and welcome to today's episode on Rendezvous on Global TV. I am Sharon Ajay and today Chunk Anamel is at the studio with us today. I'll be introducing you to her after this short break. Stay tuned.
We talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment.
I think this is a negative part of what we are experiencing.
We want peace and security and stability.
There'll be no shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely.
Welcome back on Rendezvous. Today we'll be talking on cultism and we'll be exploring the different angles of cultism. How are you doing, Chunk Anamel?
Hi Sharon, I'm doing very well.
Yeah,
how are you doing?
Fine, thank you. It's
Thank
really
you
good
for
to have you in the
thank
studio
you for
today.
having me today. It's
Yes.
a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
Yes, so I'll be exploring the angles of cultism with Chunk Anamel today. Cultism in Nigeria began as far as back as 1952. It started out as fraternities and they were confined within university campuses with the motive of maintaining law and order on campuses. Cultism refers to the activities and practices of secret societies or groups that often involve initiation rituals, loyalty, and secrecy. It's generally seen as a negative and harmful phenomenon. It is also the activity of worshipping devotion to doctrine or a cult or to practices of a cult. Well, we've seen, cultism is I cannot say it's something that is overrated because it is something that is regular. It is something that's like often done in universities, especially in Africa. And it's something that the government in a whole have not been able to curb out. It's something that they've been trying their best to eradicate, but it seems like all the plans and all the ways they've tried to eradicate it, it's not even working at all. Mm-hmm. So Chunk Anamel, I want to know how severe do you think cultism is in Africa, especially Nigeria?
Well, I would say as at now, I wouldn't know the rate. But let me start talking from days, probably when I was in school, and then there are lots of like instances that young people just they grow up to hear that you have covering. When you're a cultist, no one will harm you. When you're a cultist, you're a boss. And then they have a notion about it. The funny thing is, I feel cultists has gone to a level and has grown to be something really serious. And then one thing that I have observed is, this cultism thing, sometimes you can just see a group of young men and women and you can't dictate and say, okay, these are cultists or not, except when issues happen. But I feel to a point there are a lot of I'm not saying everyone in the streets, there's this street gangsters and all of that, like a huge amount or a huge percent of those people, when you check it, they have backings. That's why you have the mind to want to do anything and you don't care whether I live or I die or whatever it is that happened to me. So it's just like, okay, whatever it is that happened, I know that I have a spiritual covering. So I feel to a point I would say it's actually still on a high level because there are people that are into the culting thing, but then you see that they are working, they are responsible, but the only reason why they are in that is because they don't want anyone to harm them and their territories and all of that. So I feel a lot of times that's how they see it. But I feel if I'm going to talk about the rating maybe in percentage, I can't just picture, but I'll say to a point, I would say probably if we're going to check it from way back to now, it has reduced. Yes, because a lot of people now are getting exposure. They know that, okay, that space is not a comfort zone, because when you're growing a family, okay, there's a story of someone who was married and he was very, very happy with his family. But because he is a cultist and he decided to go, like he didn't want to be part of the whole cultism thing anymore. And he started a family with his wife, making money, and he was really doing well. But then the team of the cult, his whatever, his rivals and everything had a thing against him, and they came and harmed his wife and his children. So at the end of the day, he lost his family for a life that he has lived in the past and all of that. So it just has a lot of disadvantage, and I feel to a point it has reduced compared to that year. I know that like it has reduced drastically compared to maybe 2012, 2013 and all of that. I can say that I feel people have been exposed to a point.
All right, thank you very much. You know, just like you said, it has drastically reduced, but it has not it has not
it has not ended.
Like you understand, it has not ended totally. At all. So I want to know, because if we say, okay, what are the ways to just eradicate it for it to totally just go away, because it's a disadvantage, unlike then when it started and it was for a positive reason. Right now people have taken it up, and the positivity, you can't even see even 1% of it there. It's now all negative. So now if we're talking about how we can't even, at this point, we can't even focus on the government, because they've been doing their own part by, you know, arresting some of them and all of that. And it feels like they are not even doing anything, even though they are doing something, but it feels like it's just like 1% in 100%. So I want to know, to totally eradicate it, like, let's say let's start from the roots, because all children comes from a home. And you know one of the main root, or one of the reasons why people join cultism is mainly maybe improper training or improper care from the parents. You know, there are some parents that neglect their children, make them they watch some videos that they are not supposed to watch, and just things like that. So in a situation like that, if you were to like give an advice to a parent, maybe let's start from children of 13, 14, because that's the age range of children going into the university. So if you were to give an advice to a parent that is a parent of a teenager, 13, 14 years old, what would you say? What would you say concerning, especially with the aim of looking at cultism in mind?
Okay, so I am going to start with me. Okay. You know, there is this, everything starts with you. Yeah. Your parents can do their best to make sure that you live a positive life, a good life, grow to a level where you'll be independent, you even help and support them. Every parent's joy is to see their child doing well, because they gave birth to you. They put you through crèche, primary school, nursery, primary, down to the universities, you graduated and all of that. So their joy is to see you living a life, supporting yourself, having not to be anyone's boy, but then stretching your hands and then supporting them at that point, because they are growing old, and then all they need is smiles. Forgetting the fact that, okay, I have a child and I need to be there for that child, right? There are some children where no matter what you do, if you like, do the most, buy them every beautiful thing they want in life, they will still, if a child wants to go wayward, he will go wayward. Yes. And I feel cultism is waywardness. Yes. Because it's not something that is good. Okay, so I have this, my friend. Okay. He's really doing well now, like he's living a very decent life and he's doing very well. So when he was growing up, when he told me his story, I could not believe if it's this person that I know that is actually doing that. So when he was growing up, he was staying, he didn't grow up in a wealthy home and they were poor, because genuinely they were poor. But then he had dream. He was like, okay, I want to be doing one or two things, but he was a street boy. That a situation whereby there's going to be fights, he can go, you know, all those pit toilet, go to take pool, go like that. It was crazy. It was a cultist kind of thing. He has his team, they have their team. But then he told me that, he said one thing that kept him going is when he goes and see his mom praying and crying. Do you get? So one thing I would say is parents should just keep praying, because government have done their best. Keep advising, keep praying. Don't impose your opinion on a child, because the more you impose, the more stubborn the child gets. Because if, like me, you're advising me and you're forcing me to take your advice, I would prove to you that I'm an adult. You can't force me to dance to your tune. And then now, see, even no matter how strict you are, there's a kind of stubbornness that a child will do to you. You just give up because you love that child. No matter how bad the child gets, you love him. And I have a neighbor. Now, I have to say this story, right? I have a neighbor in, like, where I was raised and all of that. My neighbor, it was just like a fence that just separates my house and theirs and all of that. He is so brilliant and smart. But when he got into the university, he joined a cult. And it got to a point, there's nothing that the parent didn't do. Prayer, it got to a point where he was even like hitting his mother and all of that. You can imagine parents giving you everything. He sold his laptop for 15,000 naira. Do you understand? So it was so much that it just broke their heart. What can they do? He's an adult. You can't do anything. And at the end of the day, he just became nuts. Like, he's literally walking on the street like a madman, because he wanted to go out, and then the whole cult, I don't know the kind of cult. You know, cult is different. His category and my category. I've never been a cultist, but I know. And then he is not now. He just walked on the street without designation. The school he was supposed to be, he was not there. But the parents still love him. He is still coming to the house. You still sleep in the house. You still eat. But the truth is that he has gone nuts. He's like now a madman in the streets, just that he knows the road to his home. And that was the reason for that. That was the reason why he got to that level, because of the whole cultist thing. Like, I've had lots of experience, but I know that you don't have all the time for us to deliberate on that. But then I know that it's just a lot. So my advice, and then I think the